All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Chief Mallams. We are back again with another episode of the Mallam Goal podcast by Betway. This is Fento, that's Daniel, that's Sicho, and that is Victor. Guys, thank you so much for all the comments, for all the likes, and for all the shares, the subscriptions. Keep subscribing. And then keep that notification bell on so that when a new episode goes out, you'll be one of the first people to see it. And remember, last week we gave you 3 different episodes, 3 different topics, including a bonus video in midweek, which has sparked a bit of controversy. And I'm talking about the debate that we had, Arsenal's Invincibles.
Why are you blowing kisses today?
Oh, Leverkusen's unbeaten.
Oh, Jasper.
Unbeaten run. Gasperini has done what?
Arsenal didn't play even one final.
I don't care.
We care. Leverkusen will play 2 finals.
And fine.
Okay.
Europa League.
Listen, that's right. This week, we've got quite a few things to cover for you as well. And I was going to start from Chelsea and the odious decision to fire Mauricio Pochettino at the end of this season. Chelsea Football Club. I am flabbergasted, gobsmacked, shocked, terrified, absolutely I don't know what's going on with Chelsea Football Club. I just have to say this, that I cannot believe, for the love of God, what is going on at Chelsea Football Club. This is not the club that we know. This is not what I supported. This is not what I signed up for. I don't get it.
Oh.
Why is Mauricio Pochettino fired at the end of what was a very, very good finish to the season? What is Chelsea looking for?
He wasn't fine. He has left.
Consistency? A manager to build on the success of last season? What is it you want? Success on the pitch? Success off it? What do you want? Lawrence Stewart and Mr. Winstanley, these 2 technical directors, what are you doing?
They are taking orders from
Todd Bowley
and
Egbali.
Egbali. So why are you questioning them? There's something they don't know their rules.
This is what I have to say about that. Listen, I think it's it. Look, I genuinely it feels like the UK government or whoever picked Todd Bowley and Egbali to come and run Chelsea intentionally did that to ruin Chelsea, to annoy Abramovich. That's the only way these decisions make sense. No, seriously. Because what is the club looking for? First of all, you with Stanley and Stewart, do you remember their quotes after they hired Pochettino? They said his tactical nous makes him perfect for this job. And yes, granted, Pochettino had his doubts and he had his issues at the beginning of the season. Chelsea struggled a little bit. But we saw the way Chelsea finished. Certainly, Mauricio Pochettino was not the only problem with this Chelsea. There were issues with the squad. He had massive issues with injuries. But Pochettino, in terms of XG, he coached this team to the 2nd highest XG in the Premier League. In other words, if they had any more competent finishers, Chelsea would have scored the 2nd highest number of goals. And only God knows where he would have placed them on the table. So surely, the coaching was good. More than decent. So why have you fired him? Like, what do you want? And nothing shocks me compared to what we are hearing could be the potential names that would replace Mauricio Pochettino. A young coach that plays possessive style football. And who are we getting on the list? Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank, is it because he beat Chelsea home and away last season and picked 4 points from them this season? Surely now they say Sebastian Hornes is not interested. Michel is a no-go, Michel being the coach of Girona. Now, Ezeto McKenna. These are names you should be hearing on the short list of clubs like West Ham, Brighton, Aston Villa. Villa showed more ambition by hiring Unai Emery, a proven winner. What are you looking for Chelsea Football Club? I want to understand it. What kind of manager are you looking for? I genuinely think, I don't think that Todd Bowley and Eghbali genuinely think that winning on the pitch is as important as anything else. Because they're running this football club like the way they run the LA Dodgers, and they think that the same template would work. Signing players and putting them on 8-year contract and describing it as not spending but investment and looking to reap on the investment when they resell the player in 2 or 3 years' time. That is the whole idea behind why they sign these young players and put them on all these young contracts. Chelsea is owned by an investment firm. They're only looking to invest in players and make money off them in the near future. They don't care about whether or not they get results on the pitch. Surely. Because I don't think anybody who wants to win will will buy the kind of players they're buying with no regard to what the coach wants or which profile of players fits into the coach's plans. And now we're hearing what? They just want a coach that would come in and use the material they purchased for the coach. Football is a totally different animal. It does not work like that. That's exactly the same thing they did with the LA Dodgers. Don't be surprised that Todd Bowley and his people would go into Japan or go into somewhere in Asia and go and buy a player. They bring him to Chelsea because they're investing. Because that player has a certain potential and a certain access to a certain big market. They did it with the Dodgers, with Shohei Ohtani. Put him on a 10-year contract, and all they speak about is how much they cheer for him when he goes to Japan or when the Japanese community come to watch him. That's not how to win. I'm very disappointed in the owners of Chelsea. I do understand that if Abramovich was in charge of Chelsea, a lot of us would have been very excited about what has happened because the template under Abramovich was very clear. Even for a coach like Ancelotti, he finished second in the league and got sacked. And yes, there were some Chelsea supporters and some Chelsea hierarchy members who thought it was a harsh decision. But when you know the standards that were present when Abramovich ran that football club, you understood that decision. Because when he was sacked, they hired a certain big Phil, Scolari. Then he was fired. That very season. AVB, I beg your pardon. They hired AVB, who had won the Europa League, by the way, with Porto, playing some fantastic football. He came in there, didn't do too well, had no patience, so he fired him, and Chelsea went on to win the Champions League for the first time in their history. But these guys, when they fire a manager, I don't know exactly what they came in. They fired Tuchel, brought in a certain what's his name? They went to pay big money to Brighton to take their coach, Graham Potter. Brought him in, didn't give him. He was young, he was exciting, played some good football. They fired him, brought Pochettino. They brought Lampard, another young manager who played exciting football.
Or they brought Bruno something. Bruno Sauter.
He was his assistant, yes.
Yes, Bruno.
So listen,
Bruno coached some nice.
They fired Tuchel, went to pay big money to Brighton to bring in a certain Graham Potter. He was young, played some good football, didn't last. They fired him before the end of the season, put his assistant in charge. He supervised, I think, 2 or so matches. He was let go. They brought in Frank Lampard, another young manager, fired him at the end of the season. He said he was caretaker, so technically they didn't fire him. They let him go. Then they went to bring Pochettino, described him as a perfect one for this young kind, the kind of players that Chelsea had at the time, young, enthusiastic, exciting. He's pulled off a very decent season, in my opinion, amidst a lot of chaotic signings. And they've let him go and going back to look for managers who are probably worse than Potter. Because who among that list that they are considering right now has a better pedigree than Potter? Is it Maresca? Yes, he won the championship. What else? Because they're not getting De Zerbi. They're not getting Michel. They're not getting Sebastian Hoeneß. McKenna, because he coached Ipswich Town to the Premier League.
Very impressive.
Very impressive. He's used 2 seasons to promote them from the League One to Premier League. That's a very good way of talking about Chelsea.
Yeah.
So don't
But
say McKenna like McKenna.
No. No, you don't understand.
But the context is Chelsea.
Yes. In the context of Chelsea, yes, he's decent. He's done a good job at Ipswich Town.
Almost with the same players from League One to Championship to Premier League. Spot there. So Chelsea, will you have him? You're Chelsea. You are Chelsea.
I don't know, man. Listen,
you're Chelsea, bro.
I don't know who they will hire next. But whoever it is that Chelsea decide to hire, with these same managers and this same attitude, they're going to struggle. Guaranteed. Because the way the modern game is, they have to be willing to cede some power to the manager and let him make decisions on who plays and who is signed by the football club. Because if you're going to trust a manager to do a good job, you need to trust their judgment in signing, especially certain players that they feel can do a decent job. If you want to just sign the players and only depend on the manager that would come in and do a really good job with the materials that you have, then I guess winning will be a very difficult and a very long road from now. My Chelsea monologue is over. Thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk.
Man,
Does anybody have something else to contribute?
You can close the show because, no offense, listen, everybody knows everybody who knows.
The Chelsea project is a joke.
Well, me when you see, there's something about me. I'm bold enough to say the things very early before it even manifests. By the time I say it, people don't understand. So they'll insult me and call me names. But I've been around the game for a long time. I've seen the game for a long time. And I've just not watched 90 minutes of football. I've studied football itself and how football is run. And the very first time those owners walked into the club, what they said they wanted to do and what they were doing didn't make sense to me. And I said that this project doesn't make sense. And I've said it on another platform before, that I don't see any elite coach taking this project. And around that time, Graham Potter had been sacked. They were speaking to Luis Enrique. He said he wasn't taking it. Nagelsmann was in the mix. He said he wasn't taking the job. Then Mauricio Pochettino took the job. And I said it, that he was going to struggle. And the reason is very simple. I don't think even the owners have a clear plan, or they have a clear plan of what they want to do. And this season actually typifies it really, because look, we understand Poch had a very tough season, but getting to the end of the season, he turned the season around. And the way Chelsea have assembled this group of players, no manager walks into the club and straight away gets them playing well and challenging. It will take time. And the reason why it will take time is because the players they've assembled are not proven. You see, it's not all about age. It is about experience, exposure, and then capacity. The players they brought to the club, one thing is some of them are misfits in terms of the group. Individually, they can be good, but as to whether they fit together as a good core, the signings are questionable. And now the players will take time to develop any cohesion or whatsoever. So the manager coaching that and building telepathy and building the core of the team that will do the job will also need time. So we saw Graham Potter having to use almost the entire season to find any rhythm or whatsoever. Then he was sacked. In fact, at the time Graham Potter was sacked, his results were not worse off than what Pochettino had amassed at the time Potter was sacked in this season. Because
by the time they played the same number of matches.
They played the same number of games. Because Pochettino was also struggling. But then Poch, with time, either by great coaching or by some luck, and I'll explain the luck, got a rhythm about the team. And that is because we all know the Enzo Caicedo double, it doesn't make sense. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. It's as glaring that if you're Chelsea fan, you can deny it. But whenever one is playing without the other, the midfield looks a lot better. When Conor Gallagher, who is not a favorite player of the Chelsea fans, is deployed in a different role because one of them isn't playing, the midfield looks better. So maybe Conor Gallagher is not the answer, but a better player in the profile of Conor Gallagher partnering one of Caicedo or Enzo can be the answer. So if the manager without Enzo has found a solution to Chelsea taking control of games, now the manager is looking ahead to next season and is thinking that, look, if you bring me X players, a better goal scorer, maybe Osimhen, if you bring me a better midfielder, a better centre back in this, how they ended the season can be enhanced by bringing in profile of players who are in the same profile but better than those currently at the club. Yet, the project Chelsea is sad that the manager almost has no say. Right? And for any elite manager, the manager is not taking it. All right? It's not taking it. Now, this is it as well. This is what is confusing. When Chelsea were paying big monies for these players and the questions were, why are you paying so much for Enzo, Caicedo, players who are not proven, Chukwuemeka and all of that? The angle of communication from Chelsea was that they are not immediately looking at winning. Mm-hmm. But the thinking is that in the next 4 years or 3 years, these players will be world stars and then they can go on and not only win, but dominate.
That's right.
Now, if Chelsea are thinking that these players are not ready to win now, why haven't they been consistent with being patient with the managers who would also have to grow with the players because the players can't win now? You see, when Abramovich was sacking coaches, it was because the team he had built, they were capable of winning. And that is why whenever
they were supposed to win now.
Yes, whenever another manager stepped into a bad season. In fact, the current manager can be coaching Chelsea and they will be languishing around sit. And then in the Champions League, in the group stage, they wouldn't be playing well. They sack the manager mid-season. A new manager comes, and with the same group of players,
end up winning something.
They will win the Champions League, win the FA Cup, because the group of players available at the time are capable of winning. This Chelsea team, are they capable of competing for the big things? These players? No. So if you think these players will need time to be ready, why don't you think that the manager will need time to build this team or to coach this team to fit together? So there are plenty, inconsistencies in the way Chelsea are running the project. And I've said it before, that this is not football. And if you go to Spain, it is happening there. Look at what Real Madrid are doing. They are bringing in young players, yet a very competitive team because they've kept some experience. That you can't walk into a club in a space of 18 months, sell everybody, pay 1 billion, and tell me you are being patient for the next 3 to 4 years. It doesn't make any football sense. Because I tell you what, the players they had were good enough to make Chelsea competitive.
Of course, but they had just won the Champions
League. They couldn't keep Rudiger. Rudiger was leaving because the whole mess, he left for a better team, Real Madrid. Jorginho has moved, and Kai Havertz have moved to Arsenal, a team that competed. Yes, they didn't win, but there's a team that competed. Now, if they were good enough to play in teams that were competing, what makes you think that they are not good enough to play in this Chelsea team and keep them at that level, top 4 status and what have you? So for me, listen, to wrap it up and for the guys to come in, for me, it's a simple case of the owners not knowing clearly how to run football. And it's not about money. Listen, you can be a rich man, billionaire, trillionaire, but there will be a particular business that you have little or no knowledge about. And if you start that business, you're also likely to fail. And that is what they are not running the sports. They are not running football. They are running it like an American sport. And football is a different animal altogether. So yeah, they are now looking for a manager who will come in and a coach who will come in and only stick to the training and the 90 minutes on the pitch. That coach will coach whoever they bring to him. But football doesn't work that way because every coach has his principles, basic principles, which would need certain players. The philosophy of the club can be there, but coaches will always, it's like Mauricio Sarri. He necessarily needed Jorginho. Mm-hmm. Not because there isn't any other player, but he needed Jorginho to get Chelsea playing the way he wanted to play, quick and fast. It would have taken him years to train another player to do that. But with money, with 1 billion that they've spent, that can be done in a season or less. So Chelsea's confusing.
Fantastic. Then there is also the issue of I think, and it feeds into what Sicho is saying about the lack of patience for the manager if they are trying to sell a certain posture to the fans, that they're building a team for the future, a team that is not just going to be winning in the near future, but dominating in the near future. And for that to happen, they need a group of players to stick together for a long time. And yet, they've not had a manager to stick with the players till then. It comes down to another issue that we were talking about off air. That the Pochettino decision in particular, it may not have necessarily all been down to the football or the results, and that there is a bit of ego involved as well. What is that?
Look, Fenton, that's where I think the communication needs to be clear. Okay. For the first time in a very long time, the phrase mutual consent actually made sense.
Yeah.
Pochettino, for the last 3 months of this season, had been hinting that he wanted to leave. In fact, I think it was after the Chelsea Villa game, he was asked and he said, it's not just about what his bosses think.
Yeah.
Also ask me and ask if we want to stay. And that for me is as glaring as possible. Like, it's basically the guy telling you that. It's not like somebody's going to call me and sack me. Even me, I don't want to be here. And the Athletics did a very comprehensive backstory, interviewing people at the club, interviewing people close to Pochettino. And when you read it, you just get the sense that what Sicho is saying, that project that, quote unquote, that Chelsea have put up there is not for an elite manager. It's not for somebody who is ambitious enough coming in to try and win something. It is for a yes-amasa person. Come in, coach the team, don't ask questions. Whoever is there, do your job, go home.
A yes man.
A yes man. It's as simple as that. And you see, when you understand that, the Chelsea fans who are jubilating, thinking that this sack after one season is similar to what Abramovich is doing, they will start crying because it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Pochettino wasn't happy with the state of the squad. The fact that there was no leadership, there was very little balance in it. But it was something he felt he could make work. And in fact, during preseason, if you're a Chelsea fan, you followed his press conferences during preseason. He spoke about the fact that, yes, he didn't necessarily have an out-and-out striker. Because if you know Jackson had only played one season as a centre forward with Villarreal last season.
The last 12 games that
Charlie,
this guy was injured. The Spanish Moreno was injured.
And then he came into Chelsea. So as a centre forward, he wasn't necessarily an established person. Nkunku, who is also not a centre forward, was the one banging in the goals for Chelsea during preseason. Then he gets injured. So that basically affects Chelsea's entire plan going into the season. But again, for somebody like me, if Chelsea were really planning with Nkunku to be fit the whole season, then they themselves, they are not serious. Because if it's a group of people who are made to understand that they go through data, they look at analytics, we know Nkunku's knee. We know that thing.
Yeah, he had ruptured it before, and it was always going to be
second or third time this thing is happening. And we know that there's something inside there that doesn't necessarily sit well. So players like that, you need to plan for their absence. And if the second in command is Jackson, you're obviously always going to have a problem. Now, something that was in that Athletic article, when I read that sentence, I was happy and I smiled. When Enzo was coming to Chelsea, and I'm using Enzo because he's probably like the most high-profile signing that they signed.
He's the most expensive for sure.
There's a nickname he has on social media. I remember. It's not.
We'll give you time to remember.
Yes,
don't worry.
So keep talking.
When he was coming in, I said that, look, I honestly don't know who Enzo is.
Franchise.
Yeah, franchise signing.
He's a franchise signing. Franchise.
Look, I don't know who Enzo is. We know he's a midfielder. We know he has promise. But we don't know what exactly he's good at. We don't know what role he has specialized in. If they give him to you,
is he a 6?
Is he a 6?
Is he an 8?
Is he an 8?
Is he a 10?
What is Enzo? And apparently, Pochettino questioned whether he was distractive enough to be a 6 or creative enough to be an 8. He's like in between.
An 8.5.
Thank you. And he's not a specialist. So he obviously was very confused as to how he was going to use him. And the season has shown.
Yeah.
His deployment of Enzo throughout the season till Enzo got injured has shown. Every day Enzo is asked to do something different because the manager himself doesn't know. And you see, that's the thing about buying young and proven kids. When usually the smart clubs who buy these young and proven talents but with potential, they buy them into a team that is already established, that already has leaders, and you're not going to be overly reliant on them.
For example,
so you can get
Camavinga.
You see, when Kamau and Tchouaméni them walked into Real Madrid, there was Kroos, there was Modric, there was Casemiro, in fact. Yeah. So we are not overly reliant on you. Camavinga's first season, he was playing as a second distance left back.
Left back.
Then he would come in, play left back. At times, he would slot into midfield. But we all knew he was a midfielder. But you see, Real Madrid didn't, it wasn't panic. It's a very well-run and properly ordered system, properly structured system. So with Camavinga coming in, with Tchouaméni coming in, they are not over-reliant on these kids who are not ready themselves, who have not experienced, they've not played at the highest level to have that experience to be able to go out and show their team to win competitions. But that's what Chelsea were trying to do with Enzo. Then it doesn't necessarily work in the first 6 months. Then you go and bring in Caicedo, another child who was playing alongside experienced guys.
Charlie.
No, you bring in
another child.
No, it's true. You bring in a player like Mudryk. And I'll address this thing. You see fan bases coming, when these people are buying a player, it's good for them, but it's not good for us. Yes, if you have common sense, you understand that the fact that Man City are going to buy Doku, the fact that Doku is good for Man City doesn't mean he's good for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Man City have a core of experience, a squad of experienced players. If Doku plays 2 games and he's not doing well, it's not going to affect Manchester City.
They can fix it.
They can fix it with somebody else. But if Mudryk comes in Chelsea and Mudryk is not seen top, that is trouble.
Yeah.
Because now it has to work because they don't really have anybody else. That is where you look at it from. You don't look at it because it's Man City, because you are not Man City. You don't have Pep. You don't have the squad depth that they have. You have children. It's literally a bunch of kids with 2 or 3 elderly people. In fact, there's nobody because Thiago Silva is gone.
Yeah.
And you see, that is the problem. If you understand what squad building is, and you understand the sustainable winning squad, like what is made up of, go back to Abramovich's time. Abramovich wasn't going to splash money on children for them to come. Even when they bought Hazard, and he was that 19-year-old super. Look at the squad he walked into.
He came to meet men.
He came to meet men. So if Hazard is having a bad day, it's not going to directly affect you.
You have even gone too far. The De Bruyne and Salah examples are there.
Thank you. De Bruyne, Salah, there was Oscar, there was... If De Bruyne, Salah, them were not doing well.
Andre Scholler.
Scholler wasn't a massive...
De Bruyne and Salah sat on the bench for so long, I even forgot they were at Chelsea. But nobody really cared. Nobody cared because it won't affect them. But today, you will notice and you start asking questions. Where is this player? We paid so much money for this player. You see, that is the point. And that's what saddens me because...
And funny enough, the season those players left, like De Bruyne left, Chelsea won the league.
Yeah.
So you can't look back and say it was a mistake.
The sad thing that... Let me just quickly wrap up so that you can come in. Chelsea fans need to understand that this ownership is completely different from Abramovich. So stop making comparisons. Okay? The mere fact that you go in for somebody for like Pochettino after getting rid of Potter, a PP, and then as soon as the season ends, Pochettino carries his children, finishes 6th, and then you get rid of him. And then you look at the list of coaches they are going for, and the what do you call that? The thing that the GFA did, no, your friend is simple. Criteria. Young,
playing possessive
football. Somebody who can teach football. You're not talking about a winner. You're not talking about somebody who is coming to. And Citro said it. With the average age, that is Potter. So what they are telling you is that Pochettino thing they went for, no, they are not getting rid of Pochettino because he finished 6th. If he finished 2nd in he will go.
Because they are not aligned.
Because they are not aligned. That's the reason why he's going. It's not about results.
Back to the start. Why did they sack Thomas Tuchel? For the same reasons they are sacking Pochettino.
Yes.
Tuchel just won the Champions League. Was a brilliant coach for them. They had difficulties at that time.
Yeah.
But as Danny says, he's not aligned with the project.
Yeah, they had disagreements.
They had disagreements.
In fact, Tuchel is on record to have said in a press conference that he didn't think the Americans knew much about football. You remember?
Yes.
And in fact, that the article I'm referring to also says that Pochettino felt like he was
surprised.
No, he and his team were basically the most experienced people in terms
of but look at the sporting directors they have.
They don't know anything.
You see, and listen, and one of the biggest problems that this ownership has created, and I think none of us mentioned, it's extremely critical, is the squad management. In fact, you were going to come into that. Yes. Address it for me because Chelsea. Look, you remember one of the things that shocked me. There's a Mauricio Pochettino press conference where a reporter asked him about Mallam Goal. Mm-hmm. His response was, "Who?"
He didn't know that.
And he says Mallam Goal. He said, "Who is that?" So the coach had no idea certain players that were Chelsea players. And he has said it in preseason, if you all remember, where he said that the squad was too big. Even when Porter was...
Silva had said something similar about the lockers. And
that was even under Porter.
Yeah. So it's a running problem.
Yes, because some players were changing in the corridor. They didn't even have locker rooms.
But that is why Thiago Silva lost the captain. After he made that comment was when he lost the captain.
Unbelievable.
No, but how can you see, let me ask you, the comedy in the club, how can you give the captain and vice captain to people who are not even on the players' WhatsApp page? They are not there. I don't know this thing.
Yeah, they are not there.
Reece James and Chilwell are not in the players. They are in the medical group's WhatsApp page. They spend more time in the treatment
room than in the... They don't meet every day in my chat. They're asking about which nurse is on duty. Charlie, if they buy me coffee because...
You fucking guy. Hey, listen. Speak about that for me.
Look, the biggest credit you can give Chelsea's project is the benefit of the doubt that they are still figuring out what football means.
By this time?
Yeah. No, to be fair to them, almost everyone who's thrown into the deep of elite football goes through that cycle of trouble. Perez experienced that. The only problem is that for people like Perez, he knew what football was. He knew what quality was. But making sense of all of them together. So if you looked at the players that Perez in his first stint as Real Madrid boss was signing, nobody could question the quality he was signing. Mm-hmm. But as to whether it made sporting sense together, or you could piece all of those together in one philosophy and then give them to a coach and say, there is a convergence of ability. So let's make sense of this. Let's build something with it. That was another matter.
But actually, not to cut you. Perez's first stint, okay, his plan from the beginning, in fact, the campaign message was trying to clear the club's debt and make Real Madrid that established money. Yes, the club.
So there was thinking.
So the Galacticos thing was a marketing move. It was very deliberate. It wasn't like he was figuring things out. He knew exactly what he was doing.
So, but I get what you're saying because was it going to win? Madrid needed to win sporting-wise. But if the oldies of Galacticos couldn't do it, what about the babies of Galacticos? Yes.
No, you see, what, just to quickly clarify, okay. Perez's own was winning on the pitch as against the money or the commercial value that these players could bring.
The commercial needed to come first.
It was more than what. So if they win Champions League, if they book a preseason tour to China, David Beckham and Zidane will make them more money than winning Champions League. Thank you. So at that point,
Champions League wasn't
exactly.
Short story on the David Beckham thing. Michel Salgado once said that in all of his years at Real Madrid, he had never seen people queue at 1 a.m. in Asia to watch the team in tens of thousands. Like, they pull big crowds. But in the summer that David Beckham turned up, he had his first experience of what a proper global superstar was.
Beckham was a superstar.
Different level.
And this was the Zidane.
It was the hair.
I think he probably was the first major
it was the hair.
Global superstar. He actually...
You mean he was the one who crossed that carpet from just sports into a real superstar?
Yeah.
So he was
right now it's only one person.
So even amongst us here, we can.
I mean, you see, and sometimes before you go on, there's sometimes too. So it's very important the woman you go out with. Yeah. Because listen, he was going out with a posh girl.
Yeah. And the posh at the time they were bigger than them.
Brother.
They were far bigger.
Brother. So you know. So actually, we are married.
We are married.
So
an idea or deal.
As a teenager, she said she was going out with Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Like,
They said Fela be single.
if she's going out, like regular chilling, like, yeah, that was the level. But even amongst us, we can all agree for Real Madrid.
They say Fela be single.
Babe.
But is the king not supposed to be a pastor? Is the king not supposed to?
Oh no! They finalize them. They finalize them.
Spiritus.
Oh God.
Spiritus has more interest in the things of the world.
We need the first real global superstar of a journalist, Charlie.
Yeah.
Quick.
So, but even amongst us, we can all.
Well, are you saying that Fela is a Spice Girl of Ghana?
She's a global superstar.
Oh, she knows.
Resonance.
Yeah, but is she a Spice Girl?
She's more than a Spice Girl.
Ghana version.
No.
Yeah.
She's a spicy
What kind
girl.
of spice? Pepe.
They're very spicy.
Flow, my brother, flow.
I nearly said something that would have gotten us into trouble. But even amongst us, we can all agree where the Madrid project was headed, even at its infancy.
Yeah.
It was clearly communicated, and you could see beyond the words, the signs. You could see the action and where it was going. If you look at this Chelsea thing, and you see, I will try to address a few things. This idea that they want a yes man. Potter was a yes man. But they sacked him. Pochettino was, for all intents and purposes, a builder. They sacked him. They got another manager who was short-termist, and so if you're looking for a quick fix to perhaps buy you the confidence of your supporters to carry you through the early years of your projects before you arrive at a point where you're actually building, people believe in it. He perhaps was your guy.
Frankie.
Because
Tuchel. Thomas, yeah.
Because Tuchel is not.
But how do you mention Frankie?
No, when he spoke about
He can't buy you anything. No. He will lose Lampard. He will lose.
So I got it from when you mentioned
even the name self L Lampard. He will lose Lampard.
So you have someone who's
when Poch was, I saw a story. I thought that people were really messing up. That when Rooney has offered himself to Chelsea for the Chelsea job.
Look, I'm sure at this point
offered himself.
So you have in the 2 years they've had a builder. They've had someone who pretends to be a builder in Graham Potter. They've had someone who is a quick fix, get results now kind of guy in Thomas Tuchel. You don't get the sense under any of these managers that this is the type of manager they want.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at the people who are making these decisions and advising on hiring. And I think the first big mistake Chelsea made was sacking Christopher Vivell. In the modern era. Perhaps one of the, and in my view, it is the most impressively assembled sporting projects in the modern era. Because they built RB Leipzig from bottom up, from scratch, and made it a respectable team in Europe. They had no history. All they had was money. And you know in football, money takes you to a point, but it's never enough.
Of course.
They had to give life to that project. Christopher Vivell worked at Sporting RB Leipzig, from Salzburg and then to Leipzig. I'll quickly take you through some of the players for the purpose of this conversation because it is important to establish.
He came under Abramovich, yeah?
No.
Okay, he came first.
He came first.
And
he was the first.
For Vince Charlie, yeah.
Now, I'll quickly take you through some of the players that he signed in his career. At Salzburg, he signed Patson Daka, Amadou Haidara, Dominic Soboslai, Karim Adeyemi, Erling Braut Haaland, and Benjamin Sesko. Sesko is at Dortmund now, playing the Champions League final. Erling Haaland has won at Leipzig. Yes.
Adeyemi's at
Adeyemi is playing the Champions League final next week. Haaland is a Champions League winner and a treble winner. Dominic Soboslai is at Liverpool. Amadou Haidara plays at RB Leipzig together with Benjamin Sesko. At Leipzig, he signed Dayo Upamecano, who got himself a big move to Bayern Munich.
World Cup finalist.
Naby Keita went to Liverpool, didn't work out, but Amadou Haidara also went to
We know why.
Erling Braut Haaland as well. Dortmund to Man City. You are seeing a clear direction of excellent players who, so if it is that they wanted to get someone who can get young players and train them, add value to them and later sell them, he has the track record. If it is that you wanted stars or players who could turn into superstars in a year or two, because that is what Erling Haaland became. That is what Dayo Upamecano became until his recent struggles in the past year. They were the guy. And even at RB Leipzig, we saw a lot of these players all playing under him. So Weber was exactly the sort of guy to come and he checked all the boxes, right? He was the guy to get you money in, because if you look at the players that he moved on and for how much those players went for.
Why did he leave Chelsea again?
After 7 months, Chelsea, he resigned from the job because Chelsea cut his powers when they decided to institute that transfer committee. So they brought in Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, and they said that he was now the head of Chelsea
Those
football.
2 musketeers.
They said that he was now the head of Chelsea Football Global, which was a way of reducing his powers. This guy, all his life, all he's done is to be the head of scouting and recruitment. So he's your sort of technical director.
And he's
brilliant at it. So if you bring him and you tell him that this is the job you're coming to do, and then 7 months later, you say you have a transfer committee. So now the direction has shifted from being the one guy who is responsible for this and can create his own team to work with, and then help you identify which manager is fit for that purpose. Because that is how the job is supposed to be. Once you go with a technical director, that technical director defines the sort of football club that you are. Or you define the sort of football club that you are, and then you find a technical director who can make it work. Sign the players that fit the profile. So if it is you are going for young players with a high resale value, he's the guy who has a track record for finding them. If it is that you want to be competitive now, you find someone who has that track record and then can recommend to you coaches who can get the job done with those kind of players. They didn't happen. After 7 months, they cut his powers away and brought in the 2 musketeers. And so he also, realizing that he had been rendered useless because he knew that global head of football, whatever the nomenclature was, it was, even if it meant something, it is not what he's been trained for. They were essentially setting him up to fail. So the German says, thank you, bye-bye. He walks away. Now, the 2 people who are still in charge of the team, what have they done for Winstanley and then Lawrence Stewart? I'm just going through the numbers here because we're just going to give them the benefits of the doubt and look at whether or not, even if the team itself has not made sense, have the signings that they have made fixed some of the problems that the team has got? Because even if Chelsea are investment bankers and the idea is that they can amortize all of these sales, I'm not sure they want to see every transfer fail.
Yeah.
For centre-backs alone, Chelsea have spent £178 million on centre-backs. Going into next season, can you confidently say that Chelsea have got the centre-backs to be competitive? Or you can still look at that options or the options they have.
Put it this way, despite that spending, Chelsea's best centre-back when fit was still Thiago Silva.
Exactly.
Somebody going on 40.
So the money they've spent has not really fixed the problems.
No.
Now they have to replace Thiago Silva. They still have not replaced Rudiger, who left 2 or 3 years ago.
They've replaced Rudiger.
They brought in
by who?
Disasi and
no, they brought in that's the
they brought in Diasa.
They brought in people. They brought in players.
They brought in Diasa and Bauleshi.
Certainly not.
Diasa and Bauleshi.
Certainly not of the same.
So the replacement has to be that
temperament or even the same quality.
No. That is how you
replace them according to the way their project is.
No, when when you go to Monaco, a club like Monaco that don't win, and bring their 2 centre-backs to come and be more or less your centre-backs at a club like Chelsea. It doesn't make sense. Are you telling me Real Madrid will go and bring, maybe we'll come to Premier League and come and bring Aston Villa. Two of Aston Villa's centre-backs that they are good. Bugger.
You know what? Hold on.
Fine.
Yes, you finished it. Because honestly, the more we talk about it, the more I am beginning to think that I don't think these Americans bought Chelsea because they want to win.
No, you have come to that.
That's the last. It's true.
That's the last.
No, Sicho.
That's what I'm going to.
It's true.
Ted Lasso.
Rebecca buy the club. She take the club.
I don't think they want the club. I think the more we
Rupert.
Yes. No, the more we talk about it, the more it becomes obvious and clear to me that they bought this football club simply because they just wanted a way to make money.
I mean, listen,
that's it. Like winning on the pitch doesn't seem like
they're not making money, are they?
No,
because
is it not?
If you look at the midfielder options that they signed, they've spent north of £100 million twice. Kanzo. Caicedo and then Enzo. Those two. 115 and then 107 on Caicedo and then Enzo. Altogether, they've spent minimum of 320 million on midfielders. Yet, if you look at that midfield,
Chelsea doesn't have a 300 million midfield.
It looks like it.
It is significantly
Lavia Majora. It is Lavia.
It is significantly inferior to the midfield they inherited from Abramovich.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have the board and Todd Bowley, clearly capital, who have appointed someone like Christopher Vival and said, we are going to make you do this. And then there is a sharp departure after just 7 months. The two people
they put him on a gardening leave. This
when he
matters.
resigned. Yes, they put him on, when he resigned.
Yeah.
They said you won't touch anything. Once you have resigned, go. The two people who replaced him and are now in charge of the job, this is the legacy they've left Chelsea with. A squad that is not fit for purpose at any level. Look, my understanding of this whole Chelsea nonsense is that the people do not understand the football club that they inherited. Chelsea, in the modern era, have been always the second or the third force.
It's a winning club.
Look,
it's a massively winning
say
machine.
Whatever you want about how they do it, whether they are impatient or whether
they will win.
They win. There's a value that they get from the squad at any point in time. If at this point, your idea is that you want to strip, and you see, they took over Chelsea at the time Chelsea had just won the Champions League. If your idea is that you want to strip what was, what replaces that has to be better. Yeah. Otherwise, there is no point changing the status quo.
Or even
but for them, really, what they were going to do, Fence, once the Americans got in, they were going to strip the club of everything Russian. And I said this,
just to conclude,
once they stripped the club of everything Russian, including
and there's
every player in the Russian side.
Where the trouble started was when the likes of Petr Cech started to leave.
Yeah.
I knew there was trouble because...
There's nothing wrong with that, except that if the replacements for what was before, and I've said this again, I'll say this again. If the replacement for those Russians that you sack or the remnants of the Russian dynasty is not better, then you have a problem. Look, the two men who are running the football club now, what do they want to do? Because if you look at even the guys who are rumored to take over the coaching job, and that for me is where the problem is. There is no consistency in terms of who they are as managers. And that is always problematic for any club. If for any club that is looking to replace their manager, you hear or you see any consistency in the guys who have been rumored to take the job, then you get a sense that these guys know what they are doing.
Question. There's no consistency or similarity between Hornes, Michel, Maresca.
There isn't. And
McKenna.
There isn't.
I think
you think so?
I think McKenna and Maresca
have more worryingly, whoever Chelsea is going for is someone who should have a certain guarantee of success, so that you can trust that this method.
Maybe that's the problem.
Maybe they're not looking at that.
Maybe that's the problem.
But you see, two things. Just to conclude,
people say they are looking for teacher. You say they should go.
But they said Potter. When Potter wasn't giving them the Pochettino problems.
He wasn't teaching well.
I'm just saying that they need someone who can guarantee that they can succeed within the context that Chelsea wants. And that
what is it? What is it? Is it clear enough?
So let me answer that. And that will only be because you have seen the person succeed in a similar context elsewhere. That is what will give you the confidence. But what is the Chelsea context of success? That for me is the other part of it.
It is not clear enough.
It is not clear.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
And that is why perhaps we are seeing...
It's not clear to you.
No, but we all see what they are
watching.
But the people inside there, they know what they are listening
to. Because listen, do you want a trophy winning team?
No.
I don't know.
They don't want that.
Do you want a club that builds and molds players for onward sales for profit?
When they went to bring the RB Leipzig guy, what the bullies they said they wanted to model what RB.
Yes. Multi-club system.
Thank you. What is RB
Data
Leipzig?
Analytics.
RB Leipzig, they bring in players, they train them, they sell. That's why they are bringing young players. And you see, they are saving money. The money they are paying Enzo and Co. It's peanut compared to the...
But it's very small money.
But now think about it. If you're going to bring in players to sell, and you want to do the RB Leipzig model, then what Chelsea are doing now is a complete joke, as I've said all the time, because why then are you paying over 100 million for the two midfielders?
You don't understand the payment thing that I tried to explain earlier.
I get
they're not really... And they're paying them very low salaries. Are you aware?
No, make no mistake about it.
What you are forgetting about this whole amortization...
The amortization you are making a mistake about it.
What you are forgetting about this amortization is that eventually you will pay the money.
Yes.
It is not because you spread it
for balance of the books anyway.
It's not as if because you spread it over 6 years or 7 years.
You are paying the money over 6 years or 7 years.
So you will pay.
The deal with the club. Okay, let me say this.
You will pay.
Yes.
But the same way you will accrue revenue over the period. So it doesn't. What do you mean how? Every year you make money. The same way you spend money every year.
I'm coming. No, hang on. Chelsea are not playing. Chelsea, for the money they've spent, is Champions League level. For 2 years, Chelsea will make UEFA money from Champions League.
Yes.
The money they'll make from the Europa League is not even enough.
So their finances have taken a hit.
No.
Yes. It's not.
Premier League clubs. It doesn't affect them.
But Man United play Champions League. Man United play Champions League.
Man United missed out on the season. They missed out on Europe. They got their highest ever revenue.
No. You can get your highest ever revenue, but tie it against your expenditure. Man United spending at the time, even though they had the highest revenue, their spending was a Champions League level team.
Yeah.
So the revenue has come, but the expenditure will mean that the revenue, what you've made of it, Chelsea's revenue.
You are saying if they make Champions League or European football, they would have got more profit.
More profit. Now Chelsea have spent so much money on a squad that should be competing in the Champions League. They've missed out of that 2 back-to-back seasons. You've amortized the players, but amortization doesn't mean that you necessarily pay the teams you bought the players from over the period. It will only record on your books over the period.
Yes.
But the deal between you and the team, the money has already moved.
Not all of it.
No, I'm just saying the money before the 6 years, 7 years will end, the money would have gone like after 2 years. Like Arsenal and Nicolas Pepe deal. Yes. Arsenal finished paying the money. But on the books, the money is still being spread. So there's a different way to look at it. The money going out and the money being on the account. But the other thing is, if these players continuously are not playing Champions League, it devalues them. So the Mikhailo Mudryk that you bought for, 80 million, at some point, if he keeps playing this way,
exactly.
He's going for 20 million.
That is my whole problem.
He's going for 20 million.
Because they don't understand that the value of the players is tied to the competition.
Yes. And the success
and the level of the competition.
And their performance levels.
Yes.
It is tied. And I think the owners simply don't understand that. And for me, that it's a big disappointment. And right now, one of the biggest issues confronting Chelsea Football Club is a clear lack of identity and direction in terms of where they want to take the club. Because, and Daniel mentioned it, there are a group of fans that are still living under the impression that this Chelsea Football Club is a club that is known for winning.
And rightly so.
Yes, that's what they've come to be used to. Fine, fair enough. If the new owners don't want to necessarily win by all means, they need to make that clear to the fans.
But they made it clear. But you can't do RB Leipzig. Then they said this.
You can't. The confusion is that you say you don't want to. If you say you don't want to win immediately, by all means, and you spend $1 billion from experience,
18 months,
$1 billion on who?
On players.
What type of players?
Yes, but hold on.
As
far as the fans are concerned, it doesn't matter.
Fair.
Who was it that made the point about the fact that it's not just about the age? It's also about the previous situation, right?
Hey.
There are other teams that could spend $1 billion on the same young players who are proven winners, winning competition.
You see, and that's the point I made. That's the point I make. Those teams they are walking into. You can see there's going to be a framework or a core of players who are winners.
We are making the same point. So I'm saying that the owners, they don't know what they are doing.
They know what they are doing. You don't want to accept it. That's what I'm saying.
What they are doing.
What are they doing?
Listen.
They are joking.
Listen. They are building a team hoping that in the next few years, they'll be competitive.
How are they building it?
And there's something about football that these owners have not. You see, unlike maybe baseball and other franchises in American sports, it's almost certain that after a number of years, an athlete develops.
Yeah.
It's almost certain for some sports. It's almost certain. Football is so that you can't necessarily account for the injuries in football. The style.
The manager will decide that he doesn't
like you. The details in a talent becoming an accomplished one.
Even the evolution
Actually, the biggest difference between what the model that could work in American sports and why it may not necessarily work in European football or elsewhere is also because of the expectations on performance and the consequences of performance.
Yes.
So the LA Dodgers can go 5 mediocre seasons without winning. They will not be relegated.
Yes. It's a franchise team.
They will not be relegated.
Yes.
You can't have that in the Premier League.
It's impossible.
And again, in American sports, the championship teams don't always enter a season expecting to win.
Yes.
So fans are okay, fine. These next 3 years we are building.
And yes.
And then there's
almost always follows the plan. All the best players.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's not enough negative consequence on performance in American sports.
Yeah. You won't be relegated, so there's no negative.
We'll go again next year.
And in American sports, you don't have to be the best to be the best team. Like, listen to this. You don't have to be the best team to be the best team. Man City have won the league. When you look at how they won it, they had more points than anybody. Mm-hmm. In American sports, I could finish third in my conference, go and play the playoffs, and I'm a champion.
Win your
because that one is a knockout. But in league football, it's a proper league. You meet everybody. But in American sports, you just have to do well in your conference, get into the playoff zones, and then you change from a league format to a knockout format. All of a sudden, you are playing Champions League soon.
Apart from that too, there are not layers of different competitions that affect revenue directly.
Yes. Yeah.
So there is. Listen, yes, in baseball, there's the World Series. You go there, you make NBA championship, but after that, that's
nothing.
It.
But there's Champions League, there's
no, my friend, you see, I want to make an emphatic statement.
Go on.
You and the Chelsea fans.
Yes.
Forget Abramovich. That's the first one.
But we have.
No, you've not forgotten. Because Boli and Egbali have told you that they want to model the club.
To be fair though.
Like RB Leipzig.
Have Man United fans forgotten
about
No,
forget that thing. I'm talking about Chelsea. You are talking about Man U. I said Boli and Egbali have told Chelsea fans that they want to model the team like RB Leipzig.
Is that what they are doing
No, relax. How many titles has RB Leipzig won during that period? Like they don't win. And the explanation was they want to bring in young players, give them that platform. A couple of years.
Multi-club system.
Yeah, thank you. Multi-club system. They are well beaters.
Have they ever bought a player for 100 million?
When you look at the caliber of players they are buying, it is the way we say.
That's not how Leipzig bought players.
No. Relax. I'm making a point. For Manchester United fans are going into the season, and then you go and buy Anthony 100 million. If you know the boy, automatically you know that this club, they are not going to win the league. You understand? Sometimes the caliber of players you buy informs the fans whether you are serious or not.
Yeah.
So if you go and flood the team with children, you can't win. And it's the denial that is worrying you.
To back Danny's point, and you mentioned Real Madrid. Listen, Vinicius Junior wasn't cheap. Vinicius Junior 40 million. Adagula, he wasn't cheap. Endrick is not cheap. But when these players came into Real Madrid, nobody would speak about these tags because they are not in the spotlight. They will take their time to mature. I don't have a problem if you want to buy young and talented footballers.
That's not the issue.
But to help these talents to really
keep the big boys
relish their potential, they need to be nurtured. They need to be handled. Have you seen Adagula when he plays? Chelsea could have bought that young.
With which he plays.
Chelsea could have bought that boy. He comes to Chelsea, it will be a disaster. Endrick can come to Chelsea next season. It will be a disaster. Do you know why?
Some Brazilian boy is coming now.
Yeah, some boy. Estavio or something.
Even if Jude Bellingham had gone Chelsea, like, we make him average.
It's because, and when you listen to Jude Bellingham speak about what the Otrameni Kamavinga, Adagula, Kamavinga. When you hear them speak about what they are acquiring from Modric, Cruz, all these old guys, when Enzo is having a 4-game poor spell, who can he turn to for inspiration?
And draw inspiration from.
When Caicedo is struggling in a game, when Jackson, Mudryk, and all of those, they are not playing well, who covers them? You see, when Ronaldo and Rooney came to Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson, those boys were talented, but Ronaldo would play terrible games for 4 months or 4 matches. Nobody would notice why. Ryan Giggs,
Van Nistelrooy,
Scholes,
they are there.
The experienced players are the ones who will show consistency.
Thank you. When
young players are always
in fact, they are the ones who, when they mess up small, everybody will talk about. Nobody's talking about you.
At the moment in Chelsea, you know the most experienced players in Chelsea. Enzo is part of them.
Yes.
That's how bad it is. It's true.
And it's not Enzo's fault. Enzo is talented.
Just to end this there, I think we also need to borrow your word, amortize the blame, apportion it properly. Because look, we cannot accept that the guys owning the football club don't know anything about football. At least not enough about the workings of the football space. Who can save them has to be the likes of Vival, Winstanley, Stewart, the two musketeers, as you call them. Where I think they got it wrong is the appointment of the technical directors. Look, this idea of a transfer committee only works when there is a settled football culture. So the experience, the culture, the history of the club can absorb the mistakes of...
Who is in that committee? I just know that Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley are the committee members.
So what
from Brighton and from Monaco.
What they needed was someone with a history of repeatedly building teams that fits the profile of the way Chelsea wants to go. So yesterday, in the last 24 hours, everyone has been talking about Giovanni Sartori and what he did for Atalanta. Many forget that he was the man who qualified Chievo for the Champions League when he was technical director.
Oh, yes.
So he has a history of building Champions League caliber teams, like picking nothing teams at all. Because at the time he did it with Chievo, they had no right to do that. But he did that. A few years later, he switches clubs, built the same at Atalanta. The team gets collapsed because midway through the season, Caldara, Kessie, Conti, Petagna, that's the spine of the team.
They lost a lot of...
2 years later, he's back building the same team that fails to qualify for the Champions League on goal difference. That is the sort of person that you go for.
When you had Bape Morata, they won the league 9 times.
When Morata
once he left and went to Inter, Inter are now the best team.
Morata
in the Champions
League twice.
Yes.
For Inter.
Yes.
He's made the Champions League final once. He made the Portes once. Won the Caps. So look,
somebody knows his
job. Just like Sicho said, this football business, there are specialists for it. It is okay if the owners don't know it. And you don't need to know everything. You just need to understand the management of it. But the actual football club, the running of the football team itself.
Morata has made 3 Champions League finals. He hasn't won one.
It's somebody's business. He knows two Juventus.
He knows how to lose finals.
He knows how to get teams there.
Yeah.
Just doesn't know how to win.
And you see, I use the Italian example because Italy is not exactly the place where people have the strongest football institutions, especially economically. If Inter had been in the Premier League this season, they would not have been allowed to win the league because they are broke. They can't pay players. They've had issues with contracts and honoring them. The club has been taken over by another investment bank, right? That has been the case.
Those the owners of Inter are owing. The owners say they can't pay, so come and take the club and run. Make the money.
But that has been the situation of Inter for 2 years. But even through that difficult period, you've had a sporting director who has been able to take certain players. So they signed what's his name, Alexis Sanchez. Whenever
they can, Pavard is free.
They can find
quality. Is free.
They have a history of finding elite quality for next to nothing at all. I get it. If Chelsea wants to spend big money, fine, it's your money, spend it. But let the people who are making these appointments be able to make sense of that spending. And more importantly, get it right in terms of the appointment of the coach. Because you can sign, look, even if you bring Giovanni Sartori and he can fix it, he can fix your squad for you in 24 months. And yet you do not allow these people, they give them the power to hire the right coaches and trust the coaches to see it through. All of that will be for nothing.
Very well. And I think bottom line is that Chelsea Football Club and owners especially, they need a bit of help. I don't know the kind of help that with Stanley and Stewart are giving them, but clearly this chaos and this whole constant changing of managers in such a short period of time, it doesn't augur well for the growth of the team. And even if you have young players and you have a group of very talented players together, they need consistent tactical instructions on their own to be able to develop and become the world beaters that everybody wants to see. Bottom line, I think that it is important for us to all adjust our expectations.
The reality has set in.
Your co-fans.
Of Chelsea Football Club.
The reality has set in.
Okay. Let's enter next season with an open mind. When they win, come on, Chelsea. When they lose,
target the Conference League.
I'm sorry.
It's within grasp.
Europa League. They are going to Europa League. Unless Man United beats.
Target qualifying for the United won't win.
Yeah, so
target qualifying. No, I'm saying that going into next season, target qualifying for the Conference League.
Chelsea's target qualifying for the Conference League.
I mean, if you are